afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I was just looking at the watch, whether it's good morning, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be here at the Future Minerals Conference, and it's an honor to open Pakistan's Spotlight session. Before I go into the presentation, I would like to set the stage for the talk today. I'm extremely thankful to our host, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the Honorable Minister for organizing this very, very important event. Pakistan suffered from massive floods a few years ago, and that was a very painful time for the country. The entire nation came together, and it led to rethinking on a number of levels within the nation. And it was at that time that the realization that critical minerals are so important to save the world and to save humanity went to the next level in the country. Sometimes we are all aware of the facts, but an event jolts us and takes our awareness to the next level, and it was the floods that we faced which did that. As you have seen in the video, Pakistan has deposits of a number of critical minerals. At the moment, one of the largest copper mines in the world is under works in the country. We are thankful to Barrick Gold and Dr. Mark Bristow for taking the lead and helping us explore that tremendous potential of our country. But that's just one of the many deposits that we have. We are sitting on the Tethyan Belt, which we all know has tremendous reserves. We have 2,000 kilometers of stretch of that. So Pakistan has just begun. It's an unexplored territory, and the timing couldn't have been better compared to now in terms of this conversation. Two things which I would like to share. The way we look at the mining opportunity in the country. We have shortlisted 4 big focus areas for the country. One is agriculture, one is information technology, third is exploration, and fourth is mining. And why are we doing that? As all of us know, a couple of centuries ago, there was an industrial revolution. Some countries benefited a lot more than other countries. In the last 3 decades, we have seen IT revolution. This was the second revolution in terms of economic well-being after the Industrial Revolution, and we all know that some countries have benefited and others are still catching up. We believe that mining is the next revolution that the world will see. Because if we want to save the world, if we want to save the climate, there is no way out of it except to move towards cleaner energy, to move towards EVs, to move towards battery storage, to move towards renewable energy, wind farms, and all of these require a lot more critical minerals, a much higher percentage of critical minerals than other technologies. Now, this revolution, what will it do? It will lead to well-being of a lot of communities. It will bring peace in some regions. It might not bring peace in some regions, depending how the world manages this revolution. It will lead to massive wealth redistribution across the planet. And that is the opportunity we are talking with you, realizing that we have to tread carefully in this journey. Now, Pakistan offers deposits, resources. What Pakistan needs is investment, know-how, and technology. We have a bit of that, but the ambition that we have requires a lot more of capital, technology, and know-how. And that's why we are here, to explore the true potential for our country. Pakistan will be a destination which will offer tremendous opportunities to the mining companies, as well as to the mining consulting companies and the mining services companies. It's an ecosystem which will be rewarding for all these players. We have a very, very highly prospective geology. We have a young population, a large percentage of which is English-speaking. We are seeing women enter the workforce pretty rapidly. And the location at the heart of Asia and Middle East, with access to East and West, and most importantly, the political will. From whatever I have said, I think it's more than obvious. Our presence here, the size of the delegation, the way we are trying to conduct this entire event for the country, there's tremendous political will in Pakistan at the moment. So with these words, I'll quickly run through the presentation, and then we'll move on to the next. activities. So the presentation is structured in 5 parts. We'll talk about the untapped critical mineral potential, the legal and fiscal framework, the economy, the infrastructure, followed by the local and international stakeholders' opportunity. Now, this is the untapped critical mineral potential in the country. On the top, if you see here, we're talking about more than 7 billion tons of copper, gold, and silver deposits in the country. We have one of the largest deposits of pink rock salt, more than 50 billion tons. Lead and zinc, 24 million tons. Moly, chromite, and other economic minerals that we have are lithium, barite, nickel, antimony, graphite, soapstone, etc. In terms of the data, we have pretty good data at the moment. Here you see the location of various mineral deposits that we have. We're talking about the Tethyan Belt at the top, and what you see, it's not very visible, so I'll just highlight. We see in the north and in the south of the country, copper and gold deposits. You see lead and zinc somewhere in the northern side again. You see nickel deposits. You see a very large percentage of the blue dots, which is the manganese deposits. I'll show you in the other slide subsequently the road and railway infrastructure. So the deposits, the resources are pretty much highlighted. However, there's a lot which needs to be explored, and this needs to be extracted. So this is just the beginning of the journey. Now, the Tethyan Belt I've talked about, we are sitting at the heart of it, and we have a large percentage of copper and gold mines. Now, the yellow dot shows the gold deposits. The green one is the copper. This is the one that we have already discovered. The terrain is pretty close to Chile. So the way we are seeing the country go forward, the opportunity which Chile offered to investors, that's where we stand today. We are positioned to take advantage of this opportunity. Now, the region which has one of the largest districts in the country is Chagi, which is more than 50,000 kilometers, and it has approximately 48 known porphyry copper systems. It's the largest district with a very low population density, 5 individuals per kilometer. And the infrastructure that we are investing, the road infrastructure, the railway infrastructure, this is the area which is the focus area. Now here, this is the Balochistan area that we are highlighting here. And the green stars, they show the sampling and drilling which is already happening. We have already identified the areas where drilling is about to start, which is not shown on this slide. But then we have split it into 3, the resources which are defined, the drilling which has to take place, and the prospective. These are some of the mines which are already in operation in the country or on which the work is starting. Sandak is a pretty old mine that we have, and we have been able to extract resources from there, and the number of other mines, Reko Diq being at the top. Now, what is happening? In order to attract investors, we realize that the legal and the fiscal framework has to be right. There are few paradigm shifts that we have done at a country level. We realize that in any developing country, there are consistent changes of the government, which sometimes lead to policy changes. So that was one big thing that we had to address. How does the decision-making take place in the country? So as part of that, what we have done is we have created SIFC, Special Investment Facilitation Council. That's a one-stop shop which deals with all the investors. And the decision-making at SIFC is taken by all the stakeholders together. So in SIFC, we have all the provinces, the bureaucratic leadership, the political leadership, and the military leadership. So we have all the stakeholders deciding. Now what that does, it does 2 things. Number one, it's a one-stop shop for the investors, and it provides the comfort and the legal framework and the security to the investor. The second thing it does is the consistency of policies. With a change in the government, it is not necessary that the policies will also change. We have already established export processing zones and the special economic zones in the country, and we recently promulgated an act called FIPA, which is Foreign Investment Protection and Promotion Act, which gives protection and incentives to the investors. We have different licensing regimes that you see here on the right side. There are 4 different types of licenses depending on the suitability for different investors. Now, in Pakistan, mining is a provincial subject, and we have 4 different mining regimes at the provinces level at the moment. Now, what we are doing is, at the federal level, we are harmonizing the legal structure so that no matter which province you are going into, the legal and the fiscal framework remains the same. So there's harmonization going on. We are working on a data center, which will be a centralized GIS-based web portal about the mineral sector of the country, and it will also lead to ease of business and ease of access of data. In terms of the HR development, that's one big focus area for us. We have an institution called NAVTEC in the country at the federal level, which looks after the vocational training. And we are training our people and upskilling their skills so that they are ready for the mining sector requirements going forward. A bit about the country. We are at the moment almost a $400 billion GDP country. In terms of the nominal GDP, these are the numbers, around 6,000. But in terms of the real GDP, we are at around $1,500 per capita. So that's still low. And what has happened is, in the last few years, we have not been able to catch up with the rest of the region. And that's where the new policy, the new emphasis on different sectors is coming from. So going forward, the only direction that we are hoping, and inshallah it will be there, is upwards of the current GDP. We did face negative growth during the COVID time, but the last couple of years, we have seen strong industrial growth. It's a country of 242 million people. The median is 23.8. We have the 5th largest population in the world and the 9th largest labor force in the world. 155 million people are under the age of 30. And that is what is, this can be a big challenge, and it can be a big advantage also. And what we are working on is to make it an advantage. 4.8 million people are estimated to enter the middle class every year. We have a large percentage of our population outside the country who send around $30 billion of remittances at the moment. And the middle class consumption in the next 10 years is expected to grow 2.3 times. Now, the existing infrastructure, here you're seeing in the red, you're seeing the proposed infrastructure, 650-kilometer road, railway, and pipeline. The black line with the marks, that's a Karachi to Chagi railway. That's under works at the moment. So the road, railway, and the port infrastructure, all 3 areas we are working on at the country level. We have 2 active ports. Karachi port is already connected with our highway and railway. The Gwadar, which is situated here in Balochistan, where the large percentage of reserves is there. That's a deep water port and is accessible via road already, and a lot of investment infrastructure is going in that area. So this is the last slide. So what are we talking here? We are talking about a highly prospective geology. Copper and gold reserves are in very large quantity. We have the infrastructure. Strategically, we are positioned near Asia, Middle East, and access to the whole world. The labor force, which is young, investor-friendly regime that we have. So basically, we are looking at a scenario where Pakistan will be at the forefront of supplying critical minerals to the world. Going forward, the way we see it, the minerals that the world will need will be very different and will be much more value additive as compared to what we have seen in the past. So with these words, once again, thank you very much. We are here to answer all your questions, and I look forward to seeing many of you in Pakistan soon, inshallah. Thank you.
Please thank the Minister for his presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. I sit here or there?
Take a seat in the audience. You've done the hard work now. You can have a rest. That's what you do. Well, thank you very much. And I would like to highlight that the Pakistan stand, it's out the back there. Just walk in that direction, in that lovely new building they've got there. And there was a hell of a lot of information in that presentation, and so if you need to follow it up, and I suggest you do, please go to the Pakistan stand out the back there. I know I will. And now, we've got a great pleasure here to introduce Mark Bairstow, the CEO of Barrick Mines, of course, and who will talk about the investment that is being made in Pakistan. And, well, I don't want to tell you what to present there, Mark, but off you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Either have a seat or if you want to stand up. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Richard, and again, it's great to be here, and Minister Muhammad Ali, great presentation. I think, you know, one of the things that was set out in the original concept of the Future Minerals Forum 2 years ago was an honest conversation, and I think that's quite important, and the story around Pakistan is really about that honesty. You know, I think we all get too hung up on critical minerals and green energy, but the harsh reality is that we're going to run out of hydrocarbons before the end of the century, so we need to change. And we need to do it responsibly. And I think all of us from emerging markets have sat for too long watching the West develop themselves to a point where they're now the biggest polluters and not worry about our own people. And so this world needs lots of metals and minerals if we are going to ensure that our future generations will be able to still live on this planet. And so batteries might be important for California. Only reason is there are too many people with too many cars. So to reduce the pollution, you need batteries. But what the rest of the world needs is development, and the Middle East has pioneered that appreciation and demonstrated to the world that modern day industrialization is very important. And for us, if you look, as the minister pointed to, copper has always been the most strategic metal, as gold is the most precious. And Chile was that place to go to find copper over the last 60 years. But it's become more difficult to find copper mines and more difficult to mine them, and they are located at 15,000 feet. So there's very little oxygen. The Tethyan metalliferous belt, as you saw, cuts through this part of the world, and it represents the new Andean trend, effectively, in the world. And it happens to be located in a part of the world which is the most populated. And just across the ocean is Africa, which is equally endowed. And I think today and hopefully in the future, this conversation is going to continue about being honest and open, and for the first time to have a minister standing up and talking about the endowment of his country and the importance of recognizing that you can't do anything with natural endowment, whether it's humans, populations, and they are important. The most important asset that we can have is our people. But you also need a combination of capital, expertise, and enabling legislation. And so, in my career, I've spent many years working with places that people were reluctant to go to. And you know, all I hear every day is the high-risk nature of Pakistan. But all I can assure everyone is that it's equally risky investing in the United States, because we've just had a new mine in Nevada permitted. It took us 15 years. We settled our agreement with Pakistan just 2 years ago, and we're going to produce first copper in 2028. And that's the difference. So every country has different risks, but what we're seeing today, you know, the United States is one of the biggest consumers of minerals and metals, and it lives in denial of mining. And as part of the conversation in the first Future Minerals Forum is that acknowledgement that this world needs metals and mining. If you look around you, if you take everything that was mined away from us today, we would be sitting outside in the cold on a very uncomfortable platform. And I want to just touch on a small story, and that is, if we're going to develop this world to a better place for our children and grandchildren and their grandchildren, we're going to have to work together in a partnership to ensure that we can unlock that God-given endowment in a responsible way. We need to hold each other to account. And so what happened in Barrick's experience in Pakistan is that we acquired a small junior along with a partner out of Chile, and we looked to develop one of the world's biggest copper gold deposits, and we ran into problems. We didn't invest in that partnership on both sides. And so we ended up in a dispute with the project being nationalized, and then us going to international arbitration. And the consequence of that was that Barrick was awarded a $6 billion award against Pakistan. And I think that the point I would like to share with you is when we got to that challenge, we had two options. We had to go and collect the money, and as you can imagine, that's a very difficult thing to do. Or we could engage in a conversation to find a way where everyone benefited out of this dilemma. And so what we did is the first thing we did, and it's important I tell you the story. We phoned Imran Khan, who was in charge at that stage, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and said, Prime Minister, we can continue to fight each other, or we can find a way to work together to unlock this precious endowment for the benefit of everyone. And we will pay our own $6 billion back to ourselves. And he said, that's a great idea. And so he set together a negotiating team to find a solution with our negotiating team, the Barrick team. And we spent 2 years in conversation to find a place where everyone benefited. And we modeled every step of the way, the benefits or the potential benefits. And halfway through the process, in fact, Imran Khan signed with me the framework agreement, which set the future for the final agreement. And then he was no longer Prime Minister. And we had a new Prime Minister, Prime Minister Sharif, who was on the other side of the political spectrum. And Prime Minister Sharif continued those engagements with us to deliver on the framework agreement that we had settled with the previous government, with the same people no one changed. That would never happen in the United States, that you have bipartisan political support for the negotiating team. And so we continued and settled and signed all the agreements. And they were no different to the framework agreement that was set in the initial 2 years. And then on top of that, because the Supreme Court was the one that canceled the original permit, we then together took our agreement back to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court stood open, the full five-person bench of the Supreme Court stood open for 30 days, taking in consulting and debating a number of questions. Is this Reko Diq good for Pakistan? Is it good for Balochistan? Is it in line with the Constitution? Is it legally correct? And everyone had their view, a public debate in front of the highest court of the land. And the consequence of that was the Reko Diq project that is there today, which is currently got about 40 odd years of life of mine on the current reserves, with potential to go from 40 to 100 years. It is a major gold mine in that it will produce about 500,000 ounces of gold a year, and it's a world-class copper mine which will produce about 400,000 tons of copper a year. And so when I tell you this story, how can you, and everyone talks about risk, but this is something that is so important to the people of Balochistan and to the people of Pakistan. And this country has all God's gifts. Natural resource endowment in its metals and minerals, as you heard from the minister, young people, educated and energized, and as you heard, an organizational institution, politically based, which understands the importance of what that leadership has to do to ensure that those future generations in this one country will need to do in order to make sure that we've got a chance of celebrating our grandchildren's existence into the future. So that is the story of mining. And we as miners don't do a good job in advocating what we do. And it's such a pleasure to be part of a partnership where our host country is equally committed together. And I will just finish, Richard, if you don't mind, just to tell you a little bit about it. We've developed mines in very complicated jurisdictions in the past. And Balochistan is a country that's been left behind for so long. It's a province of Pakistan, but it's been left behind. If you don't work for the government or the military, then you have to do smuggling. There's no other job. And we're going to put a mine into that part of Pakistan, and I'll give you some ideas. We've already started schools. We've already introduced clean water because we believe it's a right. And so because the average life expectancy until today was less than 50 years because of the saline nature of the water, and it's easy to put in solar panels because the sun shines all the time and clean the water up. We've introduced schools through our community committees, and today we have 3 schools operating, and I'm very proud to say they are run by the communities, and the NGOs from the country, and we have 50% girls and 50% boys attending school. And we expect that by the end of this year, first quarter of next year, to have every single child under 10 years old at school. And that is the investment in the future. And then we have located colleges to be able to give people vocational training to uplift their skills so that they can join our project and make a contribution and have a real employment and liberate those people both politically and economically. And then we have gone through Pakistan, consulted, looked at 2,000 students and chosen the top 9 of 2,000, all Balochistan citizens. And they have now been moved to Argentina to learn about real mining. And we're going to do another 4 phases of that, so we have 40 of the smartest people in Pakistan who will lead Reko Diq into the future. And by Q1 next year, 2025, we will have employed 1,500 people. By the end of 2025, we'll have 5,000 employees. By the end of 2026, 10,000 employees. And we will produce our first copper and gold in 2028, inshallah. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there can't be a better example of how mining, and I would leave the fact that it's not about mining, it's about people and partnerships. And if, I come from Zululand in South Africa, and we have a fable there that says, you can't wash your hand with one hand. Can't wash your hands with one hand. You need 2. And that's partnership. And so that partnership, I can vouch for. The team, who some of our colleagues are here today, have worked so hard to build those relationships. And I have no doubt that, that this partnership will work, and we will showcase exactly what the minister outlined for his country. And imagine if we can duplicate that down the Tethyan trend, how we will change Central Asia. So, Richard, thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yeah, please give a warm thanks to Mark Bristow. Thank you. And now we move on to the second section of our session today. And can I call my panel members up to the stage, please, and grab a seat. You know the rules. If the music stops, you must find a seat. That's the way to do it. How about that for an uplifting story, though, wasn't it? Please grab a seat there. And for what mining can do for a country. Fantastic presentation. And again, if you want to know more, Pakistan Stand, it's out the back, it's over there. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce our panellists today, who we're going to drill down a little bit deeper into what's happening there, but also look to the future and get some insights from some people who are extremely well placed to comment on these matters. And may I introduce, it's my great pleasure, we have Masood Nabi, who's the CEO of Pakistan Minerals here, also a shareholder in Reko Diq. We have Rebecca Campbell from White & Case, our great friends from London. So thank you very much for coming and speak to us today. We have Fahim Haider here, CEO of Maari Petroleum Company. And one of the questions we're going to deal with is how the success of the oil and gas industry over there is providing a lot of help for maybe where we're going in minerals. And last but not least, Glenn Ireland here from RB&A Partners, financial advisors. And a very well-known commentator on this this part of the world. So, shall we get started? Masood, I'll get you to open the batting.
Sure.
If there, with your background in the oil and gas industry, exploration and production, how are you leveraging this experience to drive the growth and development in Pakistan's minerals sector?
Thank you very much, Richard. I'll just say a few words first about Pakistan Minerals. It's a joint venture between the three largest public sector oil and gas exploration companies of Pakistan, and we are a 25% investor in the Reko Diq project. For our companies, mining, minerals, it's a key element of our energy transition strategy for the years and decades to come. So we are very enthusiastic about this sector. It's a new sector for us, but it's an important area. And working with Barrick in the Reko Diq project, it's a great opportunity for us to move up the learning curve in mining. What we see, the role we see that we can play is, first of all, we have the financial strength. We can invest in exploration, and people don't have to partner with us, but it is an opportunity for new companies coming into Pakistan to consider us as a partner in the exploration stage. We can facilitate with technology transfer. We have been very successfully working in the oil and gas area for over 50 years. So we have a large human resource base with us. We don't have as many mining experts as we would like, but it's a start for us. We are working with academia, we are working with training institutes to help grow the human capital for this industry for the time to come. So we see us as creating a more enabling environment. We are a potential partner, and we look forward to the growth in the sector. And just one more point I would like to mention is that for anyone coming into Pakistan, we have a lot of experience working all over the country. So we know how to engage with local communities. Any partner coming in can benefit from our expertise in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Rebecca, we listened to Mark there talking about the legal agreements that were in place, and I've never seen anything like it in terms of people recognising the benefits to be had by both sides of a dispute, and it appears it's reached quite a reasonable outcome. Given your experience in the legal aspects of mining and your familiarity with Pakistan, could you shed a bit of light on the recent positive changes in Pakistan's legal and regulatory framework that are making the mining sector a bit more attractive as an investment?
Yeah, thanks, Richard, and it's great to be here today. Good to see you all. We were part of the negotiation team that Mark referred to, and had the great pleasure and honour of representing the Pakistan parties in that negotiation, including the Government of Pakistan, the Government of Balochistan, and PMPL. And so I think the Honourable Minister has actually done a great job earlier in his presentation of laying out some of the legal changes that were brought in as part of the Reko Diq negotiation, which have sort of started to set the scene for other future investments into the sector in Pakistan. And so against that backdrop, I won't repeat what the Honourable Minister has said, and I commend his presentation to you. There's copies of it available. And instead, I just wanted to take a moment to actually build on something Dr. Bristow was saying and reflect upon that negotiation process itself and the process of bringing Barrick into the Reko Diq project and setting the scene for a stable and secure and long-term investment framework. And I mean, I've worked on in negotiations like this across the globe, all continents, with governments of all types acting for investors and both for governments over many years. And I do want to just reiterate something that Dr. Bristow said during his presentation, which is one of the things that myself and a lot of my colleagues were most struck with about the process of, cementing Barrick's long-term investment into the sector in Pakistan, is the absolute sort of that spirit of partnership, but also the can-do attitude and the coordination across all of the government ministries and all of the different governmental bodies involved in making the investment happen, all of the arms of government, everything from the Department of Mines in Balochistan all the way through to the various arms of the Ministry of Finance in the federal government, who were facilitating all the different aspects of this investment. And they were doing it for the very first time, so everyone was learning as they were going along, and yet managed to get it done in absolute record time compared to so many other projects that I've worked on around the globe. And so I think for other investors who are looking to, dip their toes into the mining sector in Pakistan, whether that's in Balochistan or otherwise, the message from that is incredibly positive. It gives it gives the confidence to know that when that partnership is successfully established, things can happen very, very quickly and underpin some of the most robust, sort of legally stabilised investments that I've ever seen in the mining sector.
Do you think that that's given a green light, if you like, to other global majors to take a closer look in the region and in Pakistan?
Yeah, well, I certainly think that's obviously one of a stable long-term legal and fiscal framework is one of the minimum requirements for a major mining company to look at a jurisdiction, and so I think the example set by the Reko Diq project, should give confidence to other major miners. But I think also, I suppose it's also I know you're going to touch upon this a bit later, Richard, but it should also give confidence to junior miners who may not be the long-term developers of a project, to know that they are investing in exploration against a backdrop where majors can ultimately invest.
No, absolutely. We'll get around to those smaller companies. I'm a little bit partial to them myself, actually, but that's good. Fahim, thank you for joining us as well. And it's quite an interesting setup where Maari is such a stable and profitable and entrepreneurial company in Pakistan, and then you're looking across into the mining sector. I mean, what sort of synergies do you see between the petroleum and critical minerals exploration in Pakistan? But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about Maari and set the stage for it?
Okay, thank you, Richard. I've been honored to be part of the panel. As you said, Maari is a very stable E&P company. We are sitting on the largest gas reserves of Pakistan. We contribute majority of the urea production for the food stability of the country. We want to diversify into the critical minerals going forward, as every other E&P company is doing. This is planning for the next generation of our growth, if you like. So, once you talk about investment into mining and its relationship with the E&P sector, I think both industries are similar in terms of how the investment decisions are made. You have exploration risk, you have high capital costs, you have long payback periods, you have project execution risk, you have fiscal and commercial risk which you have to manage. And all those things have to be put together to make the investment decisions. On top of it, if you talk about HSE aspects of any project, if you talk about ESG frameworks, you talk about CSR, I think both industries are pretty similar, and that gives us the advantage to translate some of the skill set into the mining. Having said that, exploration of the critical minerals is extremely challenging, as you probably are fully aware. So we have to set up the groundwork very, very in a thoughtful manner, and that's what we are trying to do. So we are not going in all directions. We're only focusing on few of the minerals. We are engaging with international expertise wherever it is needed. We are setting up exploration workflows which are fit for purpose, using best available technologies, and capturing the local and international expertise and the young talent which we will develop as part of this process. So that's the strategy we are following.
Speaking about the young talent, could you give us a bit of a flavour for the audience here of the sort of higher educational capabilities and institutions that are currently there? Just broad brush sort of situation. I was talking to one gentleman in the audience about his mining engineer and a graduate of university in Pakistan, and that's tremendous to have that sort of in-country capability and education.
Yeah, I mean, we have some world-class universities teaching engineering degrees in all sort of areas of engineering. I mean, just 2 years ago, we in MARI injected about 60 young graduates on a 2-year development program for all the disciplines, petroleum engineering, mechanical, electrical, civil. So the plan was to develop them, and then whoever wants to stay with MARI, they will have a job. Whoever wants to move to other companies, they can move there. And actually, some of them, even before they completed their 2 years, have been offered jobs, not only by the other companies in Pakistan, but also abroad. So it's really, really good, talent pool which is available. And most of them have kind of ended up here in Middle East. Some have gone to Europe and North America.
Okay, yeah. No, thank you for that. Glenn, sorry to leave you there till last. That's only the first round, don't worry. We'll come and pick your brain in there a little bit further. But you're an industry expert. What are the key factors that, in your opinion, position Pakistan's mining sector, especially in the area of critical minerals, and as a compelling investment opportunity even? And can Pakistan become an important player in the mining world?
Well, to cut to the conclusion, I think it can, and I think that it will. I believe that the Reko Diq project, the size and the scale of the project, and the fact that it's operated by Barrick, a leading and respected operator, now that it has been essentially reconstituted through the negotiations that Rebecca spoke to, and I think the impressive, highly prospective, and exciting geological potential of the country, which is massively underexplored and underexploited, I think should, and I think has positioned Pakistan for success in the critical minerals area. And I think the international mining community is and will continue to take note. If I think about Pakistan as a potential investment destination, particularly for copper, which I guess is the central focus at the moment, it brings to mind over 35 years other countries that I've worked in where you've seen nations emerge as a potential new mining province, and you live through some of the experiences, some of the difficult experiences that they go through. Now, Pakistan is clearly on a journey here, but it is making excellent progress. And I think that the process that has been gone through in Reko Diq sets the country in a very good position to move forward with the kind of political consensus that has developed and has emerged from this, which I think is very positive and very durable. The legal reforms that have been put in place already, I think, are extremely positive, but I would think is even more important is the commitment of the governments at all levels, at the provincial and federal government, to continue to make progress and to engage in dialogue with the international mining industry in a way that ensures that the entire package, including the mining fiscal regime, is competitive by international standards. When we think about some of those other countries that I alluded to earlier, we've seen many challenges, including, for example, Mongolia, where I've spent spent a fair bit of time over the last few years where the country opened up sort of geologically, and obviously we've seen the Oyu Tolgoi project being the sort of most recent world-class copper project to come into operation. But the country was politically immature, economically at a very low level, and in a sense excited about the opportunity, but not ready for it in any respect. And I think that has caused some challenges and difficulties, which we've all read about in the mining trade press and elsewhere. The previous country presentation, which was very impressive, highlighted another key difficulty in many countries that want to emerge onto the international mining stage around infrastructure, chronic lack of infrastructure, and the inability to marshal the capital and organize things at the national political level to deliver infrastructure. And when I think about Pakistan, I think it compares very favorably with many of the jurisdictions that I'm thinking about in my mind. I mean, the infrastructure, as has been pointed out, is there. Does it need to be expanded? Yes, it does, but the corridors are there. The government has the capacity and the willingness to support it, to build it out not just for one project, but for many projects, and to ensure that it enables broad development of the sector. So we're not starting from scratch. Obviously, Pakistan is an established country, has a huge economy, a massive population that want to be employed, young people that will look at the mining industry, I'm sure, as an incredible growth opportunity for them personally. And so, Pakistan has a lot of kind of assets, including the oil and gas sector, another extractive sector with which the country is familiar, and the public understands the nature of the business and the nature of the process. So I'm very excited about Pakistan. I'm very optimistic, very bullish on the idea that Pakistan can achieve the goals and ambitions that His Excellency Mr. Ali outlined earlier.
Yeah, infrastructure, that raised an interesting question there. Masood, if I could ask you here, look, how is Pakistan positioning itself with respect to the infrastructure required to support the development of this mining opportunity?
Richard, infrastructure is a very important aspect for the growth of Pakistan's mining industry. We'll talk about the different elements of infrastructure. We have two major ports, and Port Qasim is very well developed, it's well connected, and it may serve. Now, Reko Diq is in the more remote areas of Pakistan, but it is still, relatively well connected to Port Qasim. Over time, we see the growth of Gwadar in Balochistan as well. Gwadar Port is a very important part of Pakistan's strategy for the development of Balochistan. So over time, we'll see both the ports supporting the mining industry. Historically, we have had a good rail network. Of course, there'll be a need to augment rail infrastructure depending on the location of these projects. But what we expect is that, let's say, if certain infrastructure is being developed in connection with Reko Diq, it will be open access. Other players coming in will benefit from this infrastructure. So, the same applies to roads as well. We have a good road network. There's need to enhance it, and that is to be expected. A couple of other elements of infrastructure are power. We have a well-developed power sector in the country, but different projects will require, some of them will require dedicated power sources, and they may start on using more traditional fuels, but over time, we see an increasing element of renewables coming into mining as well. And some of these power projects may support other industries as well. And we have seen that happening in the case of Barrick's operation in the Dominican Republic. They have an LNG terminal which supports their a mining project there, but it supports other areas as well. I mean, it supports power generation for other communities also. So, I mean, we could see that happening here as well. And lastly, water is also an important part. Studies are being done, and we don't see that being a problem. We certainly don't see it as a showstopper. But it's an area we will be watching this area very carefully and making sure that it aligns with the growth of the mining industry in the time to come.
It's interesting, both the Minister and the and Mark Bristow commented about the opportunity there of the sort of an Andean type mineral development, and it just occurred to me, and you might be in a position to comment on this because of your experience in both the energy sector and mining. Do you think of Pakistan as probably a sort of a Chilean type opportunity, an Andean type, South American type opportunity, but with energy, but with oodles of energy to drive it and to energize it?
You know, energy, we have. If we think of energy, we import energy as well. We have indigenous sources. We have both. And energy is something, to the extent we require it to support the mining sector, it will need to be planned carefully so that it is done in a sensitive manner to our clean energy commitments and sort of energy transition strategy. So will require some thought, but I don't see energy as being a problem for Pakistan. I mean, we have, again, it depends on the locations of the projects as well, and where Reko Diq is, there's plenty of sun over there, but it may not be sufficient, solar may not be sufficient to meet the energy requirements of this project, at least upfront, so we may need to start off with more traditional sources and then more renewables coming in over the years.
Certainly an opportunity, isn't it? Well, as we wrap up, Rebecca, I was going to ask you that question about the smaller companies' opportunity there, and do you see what's happening in Reko Diq and the collaboration and cooperation between various parties in the nation as sort of giving encouragement to probably a few maybe junior explorers in the room here today to come and have a look and see what if they could deploy capital in this environment?
Well, obviously the short answer is yes, but there's also a lot more to come on this front, and we haven't had a chance to go into it in a lot of detail today, but you have heard references to sort of the harmonisation of the mining regulatory frameworks across the provinces, and that plan is underway. And you also saw the Minister sort of referring to some of the initial work surveying work that's going to be undertaken by the Geological Survey. So I think the building blocks for that are in place, and there's a lot more to come. And so, as you were saying at the beginning, if anyone is interested on that front, they should go and have a chat at the Pakistan
and have a look at those maps again. Yeah. They are first class. Final comments there for him. Anything that you'd like to add there?
I think the point I would like to try to make is the question you asked, Masood, about other sources of available energy resources in the country. So I think we still have a very large conventional hydrocarbon potential left in the country. We also have our offshore basins completely unexplored. We also have a huge shale gas potential. And all together with minerals is probably putting us to what you were talking about, comparing ourselves with some other countries like Chile or South Africa, for example. I think there's a lot being done in the recent years in terms of, streamlining all the legal and the fiscal frameworks, the fiscal regimes. You heard about SIFC and the Foreign Investment Protection Act. All those initiatives are actually going to help us attract the investment and invest into all of these sectors kind of simultaneously to build a prosperous country and the future for Pakistan.
And Glenn, if you had to put the Pakistan opportunity into one word or maybe three, how would you describe it and why?
Take a look.
Love it. Yeah.
Look, I think the merits of Pakistan as a potential investment jurisdiction in this critical mineral space, I think, have been extremely well outlined. And it occurs to me sitting here that there are other advantages that haven't even been touched on. The existence of, frankly, very well managed, well capitalized, profitable local companies that can partner with investors that would prefer to come into Pakistan in that way to help them kind of learn the ropes. I think that's a significant advantage. The fact that Pakistan is well wired in with development financial institutions globally and strongly supported, and therefore there's a mechanism for attracting project finance and for addressing political and other risks that may be perceived to be there. All of these things, I think, mean that Pakistan demands the attention of the international investment community. We are not going to address the anticipated copper supply shock that is in our future unless Pakistan is helped and supported by the international community to become the next Chile.
Well, Masood Nabi, Rebecca Campbell, Fahim Haider, and Glenn Ireland, thank you very much. Please show your appreciation for this discussion today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.